Validation and victimhood addiction. Those are the two reasons why men enjoy trashing women on YouTube. Many years ago, I saw a video on YouTube that completely blew my mind. It was highly critical of women, and it put me in touch with emotions that I hadn't felt before. It was an animated video, and it listed all of these privileges and hypocrisies that women have in this really brutal manner. I'd never seen anything like it before. I didn't realize this at the time. I wasn't conscious of this, but I had 100% bought into the cultural programming and the myth that said that women are better and purer than men. Men have a privileged position in society, and it is never okay for men to criticize women. In my mind, it was a huge taboo. You know, women are a protected class, and that's why watching this video just shattered my world. As I sat there watching, I honestly couldn't believe that somebody could sit there and so brazenly criticize women as an entire gender. But at the same time, I could not look away because I found myself nodding in agreement with everything that was being listed. My lived experience, my own knowledge, even if I wasn't conscious of it, completely aligned with the criticisms that I was listening to. But then the panic set in, you know? I had this fear of social ostracization programming kick in and then flood my body with fear. Like, is it okay to be watching content like this? Is it okay to be feeling the way that I'm feeling? Can I think these thoughts? The whole thing seemed like forbidden knowledge. Like, you can't think that, you can't say that. But then it made me question, well, why not? And so for a couple of months, I consumed video content that criticized women and female behavior, and some of the content that I watched was pretty savage. But it was strangely enticing, and I wanted to watch more. And it's only with the benefit of hindsight that I'm able to recognize what it was, like what emotional need these videos were fulfilling for me in my life, and that is validation. In my past, I have been a victim of abuse from women, not so much in romantic relationships, but definitely from women in my life. And I have many friends who have had toxic relationships, romantic relationships with women, where there was zero accountability for the horrible things that they did. I've also grown up in our Western culture, where those of us who want to be like nice guys and be part of polite society, we're sort of encouraged when we see negative female behavior to just look the other way, to not mention it. We can see instances of privilege, entitlement, hypocrisy, but we're never allowed to connect the dots as it relates to gender. We can condemn individual women, that's fine, you know, we can condemn her and her and her, but to make any aspersions about women as a whole, completely forbidden. You must be a feminist ally. Our default programming needs to be that men are bullies and women are victims. Watching those videos that criticized women and negative female behaviors helped me resolve my internal contradictions, helped me see where my blind spots were, and it helped put me back in touch with reality. Sometimes you just don't know what it is that you think until you hear somebody else say it. And when they speak it out loud, it's like a light switch goes off inside your brain and you think, yes, I've always thought that. In the same way, sometimes you don't know what it is that you feel until you see that emotion expressed on another person. I've had that experience many times in therapy where I will tell a story from my childhood about something really horrific that happened to me, but the way that I tell it is disconnected, you know, I'm just giving a cognitive recount of it. But then I see on the therapist's face the emotional impact that my words have had, and they're overwhelmed with compassion for me. You can see my pain in their eyes. It is really quite extraordinary how powerful that experience is, because when a therapist gets sad or angry on your behalf, it's like it unlocks permission for you to feel those emotions for yourself. The emotion was always there, but I wouldn't acknowledge it. It was just buried deep down. But seeing it play out in the therapist, it allowed it to come up to the surface and be expressed through me. That's why those videos that were criticizing women were so alluring, because they helped me get in touch with thoughts and emotions that I'd always had but hadn't allowed myself to express. It was like, yes, finally somebody's actually saying it. Women can be toxic and abusive, and yes, women have it way easier in the dating market. Women never seem to take the time to listen to a man's pain because they're not interested in men's issues. They're just interested in their own victimhood. I cannot stress this enough. Watching this video content that was critical of women was not an intellectual exercise, it was an emotional one. I liked seeing and feeling the moral outrage, the anger, the indignation, the judgment. It gave me permission to feel those things myself, and it was like a huge weight was lifted because suddenly I could trust my own authentic response to injustice. It was like I had built up this huge reservoir of unfelt emotions. Every time I overlooked a woman's hypocrisy, every time I tolerated abuse because she was a woman, every time I stifled my judgment of a negative behavior simply because of her gender, that had an emotional impact on me, but I couldn't feel it. Watching those videos was like a dam breaking. It validated and released all of those unexpressed emotions. I probably spent a couple of months every single day watching a video because I just had a lot of backed up emotions. It took time for me to get in touch with them all. Now for me, this was quite a few years ago, but every single day, new men are discovering these emotions inside themselves and getting back in touch with reality. And it's not necessarily a quick process. It might take a lot longer than a couple of months. It depends how deeply they have been hurt. How many unexpressed emotions do they have to clear? You know, how much sadness and fear and anger and jealousy is tucked down there. I think that it's really healthy to have your emotions validated, even the ugly emotions, because the world is often ugly, and when something horrible happens, it makes sense that the corresponding emotion is also a horrible one. It's why every now and then in my videos on this channel, I'll allow myself to get a little bit angry, to show a bit of emotion, to get a bit judgmental and pissed off, because I think that it's important that the audience sees that it's okay to feel this way when faced with injustice. It's really important that men get the message that if they have been victims of abuse or if they've been lied to their entire lives, it's okay to be upset about that. It's important that men know that it's okay to judge women. There's no reason why women should be above moral condemnation. When they act in a negative way, men should be able to call them out for it. My hope is that when men see me being emotional, it unlocks permission for them to feel those same emotions so that they can know that it's okay to feel that way. I want their emotions to be validated. Ultimately, I want men to learn to trust their own feelings, to trust their own instincts, so that they can stand up to negative female behavior when it's occurring. However, and this is really, really important when I'm creating my videos, because I feel like the videos that I watched all those years ago, they lacked any nuance with this regard. As important as it is that I create content that helps men get in touch with their own emotions, where I'm able to validate what they're feeling, I never want my videos to ever be used to facilitate what I call victimhood addiction. I feel like I have a responsibility to my audience, and I'm fine holding myself to high standards because this stuff is delicate, but it's really, really important. I hope that I'm always helping people. I don't want to be harming people. Victimhood addiction is incredibly harmful, and it's dangerous because it is so intoxicating. First of all, victimhood makes you feel superior to other people, which is dangerous because human beings have a weakness for that. We love to feel like we're better than other people. And so saying, I've had a tougher life than you, that's a way of feeling superior. Being a victim is also dangerous because it removes any individual responsibility. You know, it's not my fault, it's not my responsibility that this occurred, I'm just a victim of circumstances outside of my control. But perhaps the most dangerous aspect of victimhood is that it gives humans something that they love to have, that they crave, which is an enemy. I mean, what is more psychologically appealing? What is more noble than being a warrior, fighting for good against evil? You know, there's a childlike simplicity in that deep down all humans long for. So where exactly does the line get drawn from validation, which is healthy, to victimhood addiction, which is incredibly harmful? That's a really difficult line to draw. And if you have been sucked into this, I'm definitely not going to judge you. This is not easy to navigate. This stuff is complex. You know, one day you're watching videos that are healthy, you know, it's validating your emotions and you're getting on top of your life. And then the next day you find yourself watching outwardly hateful content and you're feeding a victimhood addiction and you're not even sure when it changed. What every man needs to be aware of is that emotions can be addictive. right? Because emotions create a certain chemical combination inside the brain, and you can get used to that, right? Like it's like you need your daily fix. If you're used to feeling angry every single day, and then one day you wake up and nothing's making you angry, your brain is going to start to scream out, hey, I'm starving. I need that chemical combination that you're used to giving me. When you miss a day, your brain is going to go into a panic, and you're going to desperately start seeking out some content which is going to stimulate those emotions, that chemicals that you need. But like any addiction, you're going to need bigger and bigger hits as time goes on in order to get the same effect. Ideally, if you have been a victim of abuse from women, or just generally been suffering because of the cultural myths and lies that surround male-female dynamics, in your life, ideally then, the content that you consume should get less and less extreme as time goes on, because your need to have those hurtful, painful emotions validated should lessen if you're doing the process correctly. I mean, that's normal, that's natural. As time goes on, the emotion reservoir that you have, it should begin to go down, and so your need for that strong content should naturally fade away. That's what should occur, but that's not what happens if you have fed into a victimhood addiction. In that case, the content is going to get stronger as time goes on, and you're going to spend more and more time consuming it. I had one guy contact me on Patreon and tell me that while he enjoyed my videos at the beginning, he found that I was no longer able to match the emotions that he was experiencing. He was getting really angry and really upset about all the lies he'd been told in his life, and so he had to move on to harder content. But now he's contacted me saying that he didn't like the person that he was becoming. He was getting way too into the victimhood stuff. He was starting to treat people around him badly, even though they hadn't done anything wrong to him personally. And so he came back to my content, and he wanted to thank me for kind of de-radicalizing him. And honestly, I was so touched to get this message. There's no bigger compliment I can imagine than somebody telling me that my videos and my point of view has taken them away from hate and put them right back on the good path. But he was doing what so many men have done, which is to start walking in the wrong direction. Men underestimate just how enticing being a victim actually is. You mean that it's not my fault, and that my suffering makes me superior to other people, and there's an enemy out there that I can righteously fight against? My God, being a victim is amazing. It's not. It's short-term relief in exchange for long-term misery. Nobody who identifies as a victim can ever truly be happy. And as your victimhood addiction grows, it's going to begin to ask more and more from you. Soon, you'll begin to notice that you have started to sacrifice your values. You've begun to blame people who don't deserve it. You'll even start to ignore evidence when it's presented in front of you simply because it contradicts your pre-existing beliefs. At which point, you're not consuming information, you're pushing an ideology. So I'm not asking for sympathy here, but do you see that it's a really fine line that I have to walk in my videos? Because it's important that I criticize negative female behavior. It's important that people see me judging women, because men need to have those emotions validated. But if I go too far, then I'm creating harm because I'm helping men feed a victimhood addiction. I don't want to do that. That's just exploiting men's pain for views, and that's harmful. I don't want to do that. I just want to help. So that's the responsibility that I have to grapple with as a content creator, because I want to be giving out psychological medicine that makes people healthy. And I always have to make sure that I don't accidentally wander into the realm of being like a dealer, giving junkies their fix. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you here. I've actually been holding back in my videos, and it's a little bit artificial. It's a little bit inauthentic what you've been seeing. Sometimes I do not criticize female behavior as strongly as I probably should. And the reason for this is because I'm so worried about my content, my videos being used to feed a victimhood addiction. I don't want victimhood junkies to come to this channel just so they can feed their hatred of women. That's not the point of my videos. But there are so many hurt guys out there. There's so much anger, and I feel like I have to be wary of it. And I have noticed that there is some self-censorship inside myself. So, this is me confessing to that. I have refrained from being as critical and as judgmental on certain topics as I should be, out of fear that I'm going to, cause more harm than do good. I want to stop that. I want to express my true thoughts. I suppose that I needed to make this video just for my own conscience, just to make everybody aware of the dangers of consuming judgmental content, even my videos. I mean, most of my stuff is primarily educational. It's not really based on emotions, but I want to do some more variety. I want to meet people where they're at, because new people discover this channel every single day and they may not have had those emotions validated. And I don't want to leave them behind. It's important that they know that it's okay to be upset about negative things that have happened to you. It's okay to criticize women and to notice their hypocrisy. So that's my responsibility as a creator. I never want to go so far that it's just irrational misogyny or anything like that. Hopefully everything that I cover is rational and fact-based, and it's intended to improve people's lives through education. That's my responsibility as a creator, and I just ask that you meet me halfway. Everybody who's watching this, you have a responsibility as an audience member. It's not a responsibility to me, it's not a responsibility to women, it's a responsibility to yourself. So ask yourself, be totally honest, am I watching these videos out of a healthy pattern of self-improvement? Am I educating myself through information, or am I feeding a victimhood addiction? The exact same video from me can serve two completely different purposes for you. I just hope that you're taking it in the healthy way. Should you masturbate before going on a date? Somebody asked me this question. One of the members of our Patreon community wanted to know if it's a good idea to have an orgasm, to clear out the semen, clear out the sexual energy before he goes on a date with a girl. Now, my advice is probably different to what you're imagining it's going to be. Anyway, in this video, I talk about the merits, like why it might be a good idea, but also the downsides, and talk about men's fear of their own sexual energy and whether it's something you should just be trying to get rid of, or whether it's actually an asset. It's something that you can use to generate sexual attraction and intensity and masculinity. It's a really interesting video. It actually ended up going pretty deep places. Anyway, if you want to see that video, go sign up on my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription. You get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive content. Like, check out all the videos that you get to see. It's great value. It's a great way to support the channel. I'd love to see you over there.